September 9 is not an ordinary date, and the strike on Qatar by Israel marks more than just a military move. It is a mirror of what happens in the inner world of every individual who is ready to see. The surface will always show battles between nations, but beneath the surface lies the deeper truth. Every great event in the world is a call to awaken, a call to rise, a call to transform. The strike of September 9 reminds us that life never warns without reason. When something sudden shakes the nations, it is also meant to shake you from within. When Israel moved on Qatar, it was not only about power, control, or strategy, it was a signal that time is moving faster and the turning point has come. The world is full of signs, but most lie blind to them. A strike may appear as destruction, but destruction is also the beginning of rebuilding. In the same way, when parts of your life are struck, when situations collapse like walls of an old city, it is not punishment, it is renewal. The September 9 strike is a reflection of this truth. Collapse is the seed of growth. Every time history records a day when nations are shaken, it records a day when individuals are also invited to step into their higher strength. What breaks outside is a mirror of what must break inside. The strike is not only a clash of weapons, it is the clash of ignorance against awareness. It is the clash of old patterns against new transformation. When the ground shakes under nations, your inner ground must also be questioned. Are you standing on a false foundation, or are you prepared to build upon truth? The September 9 strike exposes this choice for every individual willing to see. Prophecies are not words written in old books alone. Prophecies live through actions that move the world. On September 9, prophecy moved. Israel's strike tore open a silence that many thought would last longer. It shook Qatar, but it also shook the hidden complacency in countless hearts around the world. This is the teaching. The outer strike forces the inner strike. You cannot remain the same when history itself refuses to remain the same. When one nation strikes, it reminds every human being of their own strike against weakness, fear, and illusions. September 9 is an invitation to ask yourself, will you rise? Or will you remain in ruins? This is how life works. It destroys what is weak so that strength can be born. If you hold on to illusions, the strike will feel like loss. If you are ready for growth, the strike will feel like release. Just as nations face the aftermath of war, individuals face the aftermath of inner battles. What you choose in that moment defines everything. The fire of September 9 is the fire of purification. When cities tremble, when alliances are broken, when the future is rewritten in one night, then you know this is not coincidence. It is a warning and a gift at the same time. Destruction clears the way for clarity. Israel's strike shows us that power belongs to those who dare to move forward. Even when the world hesitates, you too must strike. Strike at your limitations, strike at your doubts, strike at the habits that weaken you. This is not a time for hesitation. This is a time for decisive movement. Understand that every great strike in history carried within it a lesson for humanity. The lesson of September 9 is urgency. Time is short and life demands courage. You cannot delay your awakening any longer. The old world is falling. Just as old versions of yourself must fall, stand still and you will be buried under the ruins. Rise and you will see the new horizon that destruction makes visible. The nations tremble because prophecy is alive, and you too are part of this prophecy. The strike is not only Israel's, it is yours. It is the strike of your higher self against everything that chains you to weakness. It is the strike that teaches you to leave behind what no longer serves you. It is the strike that reveals your destiny. On September 9, history shifted, and so must you. The power of this day is a reminder that breakthroughs come with force. They are not gentle, they do not wait, they do not ask permission. They arrive like fire and demand that you act, adapt, or perish. This is the lesson of growth. If you do not choose change, change will choose you. The September 9 strike proves this universal truth. It did not wait for the world to be ready. It forced the world to awaken. In the same way, your growth will not wait. It will come suddenly, and you must be prepared to embrace it. Take this event as a personal prophecy. Nations will rebuild, leaders will recalculate, but if you hear the deeper message, you will transform. Destruction is not the end. It is the signal of a new beginning, just as the world marks September 9 as a day of fire and prophecy. Mark it in your life as the day you choose to no longer be the same. This is the strike that shakes nations, but more importantly, it is the strike that awakens souls. September 9 is a day that cannot be overlooked. Israel's strike on Qatar was not only a military decision, it was a declaration that silence had ended. Every move of this kind is a turning point, and this strike made it clear that the world is entering a new phase. The impact goes beyond nations and politics. It touches every life. When a strike of this scale happens, it sends a message that no one can ignore. What was hidden is now revealed. What was stable is now shaken. And what was uncertain is now urgent. The September 9 strike is the kind of moment that divides history into before and after. It is not about territory or oil alone. It is about the energy of decisive action. Israel chose to act, and that act shifted the balance of power across the region and the world. This teaches us that waiting and hesitation only allow weakness to grow. Action, when taken at the right time, is what reshapes destiny. Just as nations must act when threatened, individuals must act when their inner life demands change. Delay is the enemy. The strike of September 9 teaches that transformation requires boldness. The Middle East has always been a place of tension, alliances, and rivalries, but this strike tore through the illusion of stability. It was a clear sign that nothing remains fixed forever. This is the truth of life. Everything you hold on to will eventually be tested. When Israel moved against Qatar, it was showing the world that decisive force breaks illusions. In the same way, your life requires moments of strike, moments where you destroy illusions that hold you in weakness. If you refuse to act, you remain trapped. If you strike, you are free. September 9 carries a prophetic weight because it was not just a tactical move, it was a symbolic one. It declared that strength belongs to those who do not wait for permission. This is a lesson for anyone who listens carefully. Growth cannot come if you wait for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment does not exist. Growth comes when you create it, when you make the strike. Israel's decision shows us that transformation comes only to those who dare to disrupt. The dramatic truth of the September 9 strike is that one action can ripple across the entire globe. Economies react, leaders recalculate. People feel the shock. A single movement becomes a wave. This same law applies to your inner life. One decisive choice, one bold action, one moment of clarity can ripple through everything you are. It can rewrite your story. It can shake the foundations of who you thought you were and reveal a stronger version of yourself. This is why September 9 matters. It is a mirror of the power you carry when you act with courage. The strike also teaches that there is no turning back once a bold decision is made. Israel's move cannot be undone, just as your decisive choices cannot be erased. They carve a new path. Many fear to act because they fear no return. But that is exactly why action is powerful. You cannot grow while clinging to the past. You must cut away from what no longer belongs to you. September 9 shows that when the moment comes, you must strike even if the world trembles. The lesson is also about responsibility. Every strike has consequences. Every action shapes the future. Israel's September 9 decision altered alliances and awakened hidden forces. Your own choices will do the same in your life. You cannot act without responsibility, but you also cannot hide from responsibility. Growth means stepping into the storm, knowing it will test you, but also knowing that only the storm reveals who you really are. September 9 reveals another truth. Strength is not in avoiding conflict, but in facing it. Israel did not choose peace that day. It chose confrontation because the time for confrontation had arrived. In your life, confrontation with yourself is unavoidable. You must face your fears, your doubts, your habits, your weakness. This is your personal battlefield. If you avoid it, you remain a prisoner. If you face it, you are free. The strike on Qatar mirrors the strike you must make against the parts of yourself that resist growth. The world shook on September 9, and this is not by chance. Dates carry energy, and this date declared that the age of hesitation is over. For nations, it meant a new alignment of power. For individuals, it means a new demand to awaken. You can no longer live passively when the world itself is moving with such force. You must move, you must strike, you must rise. This turning point reminds us that growth always requires disruption. It is not comfort, it is not silence, it is not waiting. It is fire, it is movement, it is decisive will. September 9 was proof that even one strike can rewrite the direction of nations. And if one strike can do this in the world, one strike can do this in your life. Do not underestimate the force of a single choice. Your September 9 comes the moment you stop waiting and begin to act. The future is already shifting because of this strike, and so is your future if you choose to understand. The teaching is simply strength belongs to those who strike at the right time. Israel's September 9 strike is not only a headline, it is a prophecy in action. It tells you to stop living half awake. It tells you to rise with courage. It tells you that life changes in one decisive moment, and that moment must be chosen, not postponed. This is the turning point. September 9, the day Israel struck Qatar, will not be remembered only as a military operation. It will be remembered as a moment when something hidden was revealed. Every great event carries two layers, the visible one that the world sees and the invisible one that only the awakened can feel. The visible is destruction, strategy, and politics. The invisible is prophecy, warning, and transformation. The September 9 strike is not just about the clash of nations. It is about the unveiling of a hidden message that demands attention. When Israel carried out this strike, it was more than an attack, it was a signal. It was a declaration that silence was over and that the time of exposure had come. What is hidden in darkness cannot remain concealed forever. When nations are shaken, truths rise to the surface. The September 9 strike tells us that what you keep buried in yourself will also one day break out. Just as the world could not hide the tensions in the Middle East any longer, you cannot hide from your own inner conflicts forever. At some point, the strike must come, and with it, the truth. The hidden message in this strike is that illusions always collapse when pressure becomes too strong. For years, there were alliances, agreements, and appearances of stability, but under the surface, tension was growing. September 9 tore off the mask. In the same way, your life may look stable on the outside, but if you hide pain, weakness, or denial, the strike will come and it will expose what you tried to conceal. This is not punishment, it is liberation. Just as the strike revealed the real state of nations, your inner strike reveals your real state of being. There is prophecy inside this event because prophecy always points to truth breaking through the surface. The strike is not a random decision, it is part of the unfolding design. History moves forward through sudden, dramatic shifts, not slow comfort. This is why September 9 is so important. It shows that transformation comes with force. One moment can carry more meaning than years of silence. In your personal life, one act of courage can carry more weight than years of hesitation. The September 9 strike shows that destiny is shaped not by waiting, but by decisive revelation. The hidden message is also about awakening. When a nation moves with such force, it sends shockwaves far beyond its borders. Every leader must respond, every citizen must pay attention. The same applies within yourself. When you allow a decisive strike to break through, it awakens every part of you. The lazy parts, the fearful parts, the doubtful parts, they all have to respond. This is why inner transformation is never gentle. It comes like a strike. It forces you to awaken. It forces you to grow. The September 9 strike teaches us that the truth is always uncomfortable. Qatar was struck not because it was safe, but because it was involved in hidden dealings, alliances, and energies that could no longer be tolerated. In the same way, your illusions, your excuses, your false beliefs cannot be tolerated by your higher self forever. They must be exposed. They must be destroyed. The strike is a symbol of this inner battle. Growth requires that false layers fall away, no matter how painful the process is. This event also shows the danger of ignoring warnings. Prophecy had already spoken in whispers before September 9. The tensions were visible, the signs were there, yet many ignored them. When the strike came, it was sudden and irreversible. This is the way of life. You receive signals, you hear whispers, you feel the pull to change. If you ignore them, the strike will come harder and sharper. Growth cannot be avoided. It can only be embraced willingly or forced upon you. The September 9 strike reminds us that ignoring the inner call for change leads to a more violent awakening later. The hidden message is about courage. Israel dared to strike despite knowing the world would react. That is the essence of true growth, taking action even when the consequences are uncertain. The fear of consequences keeps people trapped, but growth demands the courage to break through. If you want transformation, you must accept that there will be backlash, resistance, and chaos. But just as Israel's strike rewrote the map of power, your strike of courage will rewrite the map of your life. September 9 revealed that every act of destruction carries within it the seed of rebirth. The strike looked like loss, but in reality, it was a reset. And the old order was broken so that a new order could emerge. This is the law of transformation. You cannot build the new until the old is destroyed. The hidden message for you is this: do not fear the breaking. Do not fear the collapse. What falls is what was never strong enough to last. What remains after the strike is what is real. This is why September 9 matters so deeply. It is not only about geopolitics. It is about prophecy in motion. It is about truth breaking through falsehood. It is about the courage to act when the world hesitates. It is about understanding that growth comes through force, not comfort. The strike on Qatar was an outer event, but its inner teaching is eternal. You must allow your own strike to happen. You must tear down what holds you back. You must expose what is hidden. Only then can you rise with strength. The hidden message of the September 9 strike is that nothing stays buried forever. Truth will surface, prophecy will unfold, growth will demand itself. The nations trembled because one strike revealed what many tried to ignore. You too will tremble when your moment comes. But remember, trembling is the sign of awakening, and awakening is the doorway to transformation. September 9 is the reminder that truth cannot be silenced and that your own breakthrough is waiting on the other side of destruction. The September 9 strike by Israel on Qatar did not remain confined to a battlefield. It spread like fire, reaching beyond borders, beyond governments, beyond armies. This is the nature of events born from prophecy. They do not belong to one place, they belong to all. The strike shook Qatar, but it also shook the Middle East. It sent ripples into Europe, into America, into Asia. It entered financial markets, it unsettled leaders, it stirred people in fear and in awakening. The lesson is clear: what happens in one place touches the entire world. And in the same way, what happens inside you touches everything around you. The ripple effect of September 9 shows us that no action is isolated. A single strike shifts alliances, breaks deals, and redraws maps of power. Nations, once comfortable in their silence, suddenly face decisions. Friends become uncertain, enemies become bold, and neutral parties are forced to choose sides. This is how one act creates a chain reaction. Life works in the same way. One choice you make, whether to rise or to remain in weakness, will ripple into every part of your being. One decision to strike against fear, laziness, or doubt will reshape your relationships, your work, your health, and your destiny. When Israel struck Qatar, the effect was not just military, it was spiritual and psychological. Fear spread among leaders who wondered if they would be next. Hope rose among those who longed for change. Anger burned in those who felt betrayed. This is the power of decisive action. It forces movement in every direction. In your life, decisive choices do the same. The strike inside you may terrify parts of your old self that want to survive. It may disturb the comfort you have built, but it will also awaken new strength, new clarity, and new courage. That is the ripple effect of a transformation. September 9 is a date that shows how quickly stability can vanish. One day the world seemed balanced, the next it was trembling. Economies reacted, oil prices shifted, alliances wavered. This is the truth of existence. Nothing is fixed, nothing is permanent. To depend on stability is to live in illusion. When the strike comes, illusion falls away. This is why you must build not on sand, but on strength. If your foundation is weak, the ripple will destroy you. If your foundation is strong, the ripple will carry you higher. The strike teaches that power is not limited by distance. Israel's move shook places far from the Middle East. The same is true for inner growth. Your strength is not confined to one part of your life. When you awaken in one area, the power flows into all areas. If you discipline your body, your mind grows sharper. If you strengthen your spirit, your relationships gain clarity. Everything is connected. The ripple of one act of growth is never local. It is global within your own being. On September 9, leaders around the world realized they could no longer ignore what was happening. Even those not directly involved were forced to react. This is a direct lesson for personal transformation. When you strike against your old self, even the people around you are affected. They may resist your change. They may fear your strength. They may admire your courage, but they cannot ignore it. Growth forces the environment to respond. This is why transformation is not only about you. It is about the world you shape through your choices. The ripple of the strike also shows the urgency of readiness. Many nations were unprepared for such a sudden act. They were caught in silence, expecting stability, believing that time would remain the same. But time never remains the same. When change comes, it comes suddenly. This is why you must prepare yourself. Do not wait for the strike to awaken you. Be ready before it arrives. The September 9 strike teaches us that waiting for comfort is dangerous. Preparation is strength, and readiness is survival. This event also reveals that energy cannot be contained. Once a strike happens, it keeps moving outward, like waves after a stone is thrown into water. The further it travels, the more it touches. This is why the strike of September 9 will not fade quickly. It will continue to shape policies, wars, economies, and beliefs. And in your life, once you release the energy of transformation, it does not stop at the first result. It keeps moving. Growth in one area will open doors in another. Courage in one act will fuel courage in the next. The ripple of growth never ends once it has begun. September 9 was not just about Israel and Qatar. It was about the entire world being forced into a new chapter. This is the dramatic truth. The strike belongs to everyone. The same is true for your personal breakthroughs. When you transform, it is not just your life that changes. Your family, your community, and even strangers you may never meet will feel the energy of your growth. One person who awakens can shift countless others. The ripple is always larger than the strike itself. This is why September 9 cannot be seen as a small event. It is a turning point that shook the nations. And for you, it is a teaching that every decision matters. Every action carries weight far beyond what you can see. You are not isolated. Your choices shape more than yourself. The September 9 strike teaches that your life is a force, and when you decide to strike against weakness, your ripple will travel far. It will awaken others, it will break illusions, it will shift the course of many lives. The nations were shaken because one strike moved the world. The lesson is simply do not underestimate the power of one act. One strike is enough to trigger a global storm, and one act of courage is enough to trigger a transformation that touches everything. The September 9 strike shows the unstoppable law of ripples, and if the nations can be shaken, so too can your life be remade by the force of one bold decision. September 9 was not just a strike between Israel and Qatar. It was a moment that opened the doors to a deeper understanding, a reminder that events of such force cannot be seen only with the eyes. They must be felt with the spirit. The strike carries meaning far beyond politics and war. It aligns with something greater, a movement of prophecy, a turning of the unseen wheel. On this day, the world was shown that history does not unfold by chance, it unfolds by design. When Israel struck Qatar, many saw only destruction. But behind destruction, there is always revelation. The strike revealed not just weakness in nations, but also weakness in human hearts. It revealed how unprepared the world is for sudden change. It revealed the truth that most try to avoid. Nothing is permanent and everything can shift in one instant. This is why the strike must be seen as a prophecy in motion. It teaches us that the illusions of stability are fragile and that destiny always arrives with force. The interpretation of this strike goes deeper than war. September 9 is a symbol of karmic law, the law that what is hidden must eventually rise. Qatar's silence and Israel's decision collided, and the result was exposure. Every hidden alliance, every unspoken plan, every fragile balance was shaken. In the same way, your own hidden patterns will eventually surface. You can suppress them, you can bury them, but when the time of prophecy arrives, they will rise. The strike is a reminder. Face your hidden self before it explodes. This day also teaches about alignment with greater energy. Israel's strike was not only political, it was timed with a sense of inevitability. When prophecy is ready to move, it finds an instrument. On September 9, Israel became the instrument. It shows us that sometimes you are called to act not because you planned it, but because destiny demands it. Growth in life requires the same surrender. You may not feel ready, you may not have perfect conditions, but when the moment arrives, you must step into it. If you resist, life will force you anyway. The prophetic weight of this strike lies in its symbolism. A sudden fire ignited and spread across the nations. The fire burned illusions. The fire awakened fear. The fire demanded attention. This is exactly how inner growth works. It is not slow. It is not polite. It comes like a strike, like fire. It shakes your world so that you cannot remain asleep. The September 9 strike mirrors this universal truth. The higher power does not wait for permission. It strikes when the time is right and the world is forced to awaken. Another interpretation of this strike is renewal. Destruction was visible, yes, but destruction clears the way for what is new. The old order that relied on silence and secrecy was torn. The same applies to your life. When you experience collapse, it is not the end. It is the path to renewal. The September 9 strike shows that endings are beginnings in disguise. When you lose what you thought was unshakable, you gain the space to build something that truly lasts. September 9 also reminds us that prophecy always works through disruption. Peace without truth is not real peace. Stability without honesty is not real stability. The strike broke the silence because silence had no foundation. In your personal journey, you must also break false peace. If you hide behind comfort, if you pretend everything is fine, you will one day face your own strike. Growth demands disruption. Without it, you stay trapped in illusions. With it, you awaken. The strike is also about courage in the face of destiny. Israel moved knowing the world would tremble, knowing there would be backlash, knowing the risks. Yet the move was made. This reveals the essence of growth, stepping into action even when the outcome is uncertain. If you want transformation, you cannot wait for approval. You cannot wait for the world to understand. You must act when the moment arrives. The September 9 strike is proof that destiny favors those who move with courage. The deeper meaning of this strike is that everything visible is connected to the invisible. Nations fight on the surface, but prophecy moves beneath them. The same is true within you. Your daily choices, your struggles, your battles, they all connect to something deeper. If you only see the surface, you will miss the truth. The strike of September 9 calls you to see beyond appearances. It calls you to recognize that every act, no matter how small, has roots in the unseen. This is how growth becomes real, by seeing the connection between outer events and inner transformation. September 9 is not a coincidence on the calendar. It is a prophetic marker. It was meant to shake the nations, and it was meant to shake you. The teaching is direct. Do not hide from change. Do not run from transformation. When the strike comes, receive it. When prophecy moves, align with it. This is how you rise, not as a victim of chaos, but as a co-creator of destiny. The interpretation of September 9 is simple yet powerful. It is the reminder that life always reveals what is hidden, that truth cannot remain buried, that courage is rewarded, and that destruction is the first step to renewal. Israel's strike on Qatar was the outer event, but the inner meaning is eternal. Growth is not gentle. It is dramatic. It is sudden. It is unstoppable. September 9 showed the nations this truth. And if you are ready, it will show you the same. September 9 was not only the day of a strike, it was the day of a warning. Israel's action against Qatar shook the world, but its true meaning lies deeper. The strike was not an ending, it was a beginning. It marked the opening of a new chapter that demands preparation. History has turned a page, and the world must now decide how to walk into the future. For those who are awake, the message is clear. What comes next will test strength, discipline, and awareness. The September 9 strike is not a story to observe from a distance. It is a call to prepare yourself for what is coming. The first lesson is urgency. Life does not wait. The strike came suddenly, without warning, and the world was forced to adjust. Nations scrambled, markets shifted, leaders reacted in haste. This is how life always moves when destiny calls. Change does not knock politely, it breaks the door. The teaching is simple. If you are not prepared, you will be broken by the strike. Preparation means strengthening yourself before the storm arrives. It means building discipline in times of peace so that when chaos comes, you do not collapse. The September 9 strike teaches that storms are unavoidable. To wish for calm forever is to live in illusion. Just as the nations could not escape the shock of this event, you cannot escape the challenges that life will bring. But what you can choose is your response. Preparation is not about predicting every detail. It is about building resilience, clarity, and strength so that no matter what comes, you are not destroyed. This is the path of growth, to turn uncertainty into opportunity by being ready for anything. The second lesson is transformation. When Israel struck Qatar, it was not simply about an immediate goal. It was about shifting the balance of power for the future. The strike changed the direction of events to come. In the same way, your inner strike must be about more than temporary relief. It must change your direction. Growth is not about solving small problems. It is about realignment. September 9 reveals that decisive moments carry the power to transform your destiny entirely. What you choose now will echo in the years ahead. This event also shows that preparation is not only physical, it is spiritual. Nations prepare with weapons, strategies, and alliances, but individuals must prepare with awareness, clarity, and courage. The September 9 strike proves that the world can shift in one day. If your mind is not awake, fear will consume you. If your heart is not steady, chaos will pull you down. Preparation is the cultivation of inner stability so that no outer storm can take your strength. This is how true growth is measured. September 9 also speaks of sacrifice. The strike brought loss, destruction, and consequences that cannot be undone. Every decisive act comes with cost. Growth demands the same. If you want to rise, you must be willing to let go. You must be willing to destroy old habits, false beliefs, and attachments that keep you small. The strike teaches that you cannot step into the future while clinging to the past. Preparation means accepting loss as part of transformation. Without sacrifice, there is no growth. Another truth revealed by this strike is vigilance. Qatar was caught in the fire because it lived under the illusion of safety. The world believed the stability would hold, yet September 9 proved otherwise. This is the warning: never fall asleep in comfort. Always remain awake, always remain watchful. Growth is not passive. It requires constant awareness, constant readiness. If you do not remain alert, life will strike when you are least prepared. But if you live with vigilance, no strike can break you. The September 9 strike also shows that prophecy does not end with one event. It unfolds step by step. This was not the conclusion. It was the opening of a greater wave. The world will continue to tremble, and so will your personal life as long as you resist growth. Preparation is the shield. Without it, every shock will overwhelm you. With it, every shock becomes fuel for transformation. The strike teaches us that readiness is not a choice. It is survival. This day reminds us that the future belongs to those who act, not those who wait. Israel acted on September 9, and the world was forced to adjust. This is the Loi, the one who moves first defines the course. In your life, if you wait for change to arrive, you will always be reacting. But if you prepare, if you act with courage, you will lead your destiny instead of being dragged by it. The strike is a call to stop waiting. Step forward now, because the world will not slow down for you. September 9 is more than history. It is a prophecy fulfilled and a prophecy still unfolding. The strike warns of greater shifts to come, and it teaches that the only path is preparation. Prepare your body with discipline. Prepare your mind with clarity. Prepare your spirit with strength. This is how you face the storm that is coming. Just as Israel struck with force, you must strike against your own weakness with the same intensity. That is the only way to stand unshaken when the next wave arrives. The message is final and clear. September 9 was not the end. It was the beginning. Israel's strike on Qatar was a warning to the nations and a teaching for every soul. The days ahead will demand more strength, more awareness, more courage. Preparation is no longer optional. It is the path to survival and to growth. If you hear the message of September 9, then awaken now. Because what is coming will not wait, and only those who are prepared will rise when the world shakes again.